All right, here we are today for our weekly hypnosis talks. We try to keep them to about 20 minutes so that they're bite sized for people. We often go over, but our intention is to keep your attention for 20 minutes. And today we plan to talk about more tips for hypnosis. These are things that are both helpful for practitioners as well as the individual who wants to do work on their own. And today we want to talk about listening in and also thought control. And so when we talk about listening in, I've noticed that it's actually really challenging for a lot of people at first. There's loudness, the thoughts are going everywhere, and the thoughts are kind of controlling you. And when we say thought control, it has no implication to control others' thoughts, but to be able to control your own. And, just think about how often your thoughts control you. And often they block you from listening in. And, I always like to kind of give all sides because I do know that sometimes this information or hypnosis or talking about an inner child or listening in can, for certain minded people, they think it's hogwash, they think it's something that's intangible or, you know, have degrading ideas of spirituality or what have you. But in my opinion, and from my experience in reading, um, you know, memories hold in our body and in our mind, and we all experience that. We've all experienced that. And so um, there's many ways to kind of think about the same thing, right? And regardless, there are things that you can listen to. They are being held in your body, whether it's spiritual, whether it's biological, whether it's emotional, again, it can be named many things, but when we find ways to control our thoughts or um, learn, like you learn in meditation and you can learn with hypnosis, to just notice them and let them go, there is a story inside of you. And there's many ways to hear it. So, what about you, Pete? What do you have to say about all that?
I agree, right? This is one where I find a lot of us like distractions. Distractions from the thoughts we know we need to deal with, but we don't want to deal with them yet. Um, how many times do people come in and they go, well, I don't want to feel anxious, right? Or I don't want to be stressed. Yeah, I get that part, but it's also there to try and go, hey, we got to change something because it's not in balance, you know? And so what we typically do is we typically go, I got to push this away for now. I got to push it to the side and I'll deal with it later. But the truth is, later never comes for most of us, right? Unless we're purposely doing it. And so it is one, whether you want to call it your inner child, whether you want to call it the universal consciousness or subconscious mind or really any term, right? It's knowing that every time this feeling comes up, it's there to try and tell us something. And we have to take a moment just to listen to it. With a lot of my clients, I relate it to a child, right? What is the child has something that he or she deems very important in that moment, right? Whether it is important, who knows, right? Every kid's different, but they know it's important in that moment. So what do? They come up and they go, Dad, 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 right? And I'm like, not now, I'm working, right? Not now. And they just don't go, oh, okay, I guess I'll leave. They go, no, this is important. And they get louder and louder and more intense until you can't ignore them. All right. That's exactly what our feelings and our emotions do, right? Our thoughts of the past and the future. That's exactly what it's trying to tell us. It's trying to say, hey, just listen to me for a second to go, if we're trying to get to this future, we're going down the wrong path. And here's a pivot point where we can change to get back on the right path. Or if it's a feeling from the past going, hey, we're making the same mistake over and over and over and over, and we're not learning from it. It's trying to help you to recognize that something needs to change. It may not know what, but it knows something. Yeah.
And what do you think, like, what is the knowing and the something? Like, is that, who is the knowing? How is the knowing?
You know what? It goes by so many different names. If you think from a religious standpoint, it's God, right? It's Buddha. If you think more from a spiritual, it's the universal conscious, the universal mind, our subconscious, right? Our best version of ourselves is that knowing thing, right? We all have dreams and desires, whether we recognize them consciously or not. They're there, right? We don't wake up, one day just be like, you know what? I do want to be an insurance salesman, right? We all have dreams of changing the world, right? Especially when we're children, right? You always hear, I want to be a police officer, a doctor, a firefighter, a vet, right? Life-changing jobs, right? That's even when we're young, we want to be something that changes the world, right? And so that part of us never goes away. We may learn to suppress it, to go, well, I gotta pay my bills, and I couldn't be that vet, so now I'm going to be that office worker working 9 to 5, right? But that you inside that wants to be more and do more is always there, and it's always giving you those subtle signs to go, this is one of those moments that are
Well, I
best.
have to say that, sounds to me like your inner child.
Yeah.
It sounds like, the child that came into this world that is the closest to source. And we don't know what that is. Some people feel they do. But those that came in closest to source have, for the most part, when we see children, probably pretty much always want to do something to change the world. Then as they grow, as we grow, we realize responsibility, or things don't happen, this and that. So then when we have these things, like you mentioned, that are telling us it's the wrong way, or, this knowing, it almost sounds like that memory, or that kid, that inner child, saying, the dream that we came into this world with this is way far off from that. Now, some people have the ability or the freedom to follow that, and some people don't. But when I hear you say that, I go, well, it sounds to me like the whispering, the calling, the reminiscent of that original feeling that you came in with as a kid. And I like that you pointed out that the majority of kids, they do have that idea of that life, that world changing desire at first. It's very
Yeah.
interesting. I've never heard that or thought of it.
The way I look at things is like when we come into this world, right, we are overabundant, right? We can become and are everything, right? You could take two babies born at the same time, right, in the same area. One becomes a doctor, one becomes maybe an entrepreneur, right? How do they become one or the other? You know, it's, well, when they're born, they both are capable of being both, right? And then as they grow, what happens is people come in and go, well, no, you can't do that. No one in our family's ever done that. So why do you think you're going to be the first, right? We go to school, right? And then we're taught by limited people as far as their way to see themselves in the world in it, right? Maybe they see the world as a depressing place, right? If that is a teacher, they can't teach you really how to be happy, right? So it takes away some of your abundance each and every time, right? We think of the grade school system where they correct you on the amount you got wrong versus the amount you got right. That right there can only take away abundance, not give more abundance, And so as time goes on, we're emptying our cup of unlimited potential, and we're putting limits on it. What I've learned over the years, though, is one, we can fill that cup back up, right, to be unlimited again. And there's people out there who are naturally taught to keep their abundance when everything around them says to lose it. You know, you see it where I see it a lot in parents who are authors, where they teach their kid to keep their creativity, to let their imagination just take over, right? To create this world around them. They really teach that. And those people become very creative, usually in nature, right? Because it's that part of them was kept there. But maybe in another area, they may feel limited, you know? And so it's knowing that we are molded, we are shaped from the people in our lives, but it's also not us, because we are unlimited in our potential, you know?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, with that unlimited potential, but then the limits of how we were raised, and this idea, this, kind of noticing that most children coming in have these world changing feelings and ideas. And then a lot of adults are feeling stuck and limited, and maybe even not living, their passion. What are some tips and things that you've seen work with clients for listening in and this thought control?
Yeah. So the first one I'll always tell people is know that your thoughts are energy. That's all they are, right? They're not anything physical in that moment. They're just energy. Now, with that energy, you can't be created, it can't be destroyed, but you can change it, right? And so you can take those thoughts and go, well, how do I change this? Right? How do I make it something more useful for what's going on around me? You know, because if you think about our thoughts as energy and our body as energy, it ultimately means our thoughts will affect our body. So if we have realistically negative thoughts, it'll bring on negative physical reactions in our body. If we have positive thoughts, it will begin to create positive reactions in our body. The problem I find with a lot of people is we're in a hurry. We want it now, you know. But let's say you're 25 years old, you grew up with a lot of negative thoughts. I'm not saying it takes another 25 years of positive thoughts, but it's not going to happen on day 2, right? It's not going to happen on day 3 or 4 or 5. It could be 1 month, it could be a year, it could be 2 years for it to fully take form.
But it
You know,
certainly has a seed. I mean,
but it's
the
certainly a
seed is
seed.
planted immediately once you go, ah,
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to, like a seed, you have to nurture it, right? You have to be loving and kind and understanding, right? It's one where my I forget, we went out somewhere and they had this nice smelling like cilantro plant, um, and my daughter wanted it, right? So we went online on Amazon, bought one, came in. She was so excited, right? But she shook it. All the leaves came off, and I was like, "Oh my god, this thing is dead now," right? But I still put it in soil, right? I still watered it. If I could show you a picture of it just in a month, it is probably now 13 inches tall. The leaves are massive. It is growing like you wouldn't believe, right? From almost near death, you know. But it wasn't without care, right? I had to purposely go and check on it every day, right? I had to purposely go, I'm going to give you extra love and attention with these nutrients. I had to purposely go, let me check in on you, right? Let me make sure you're still going in the right direction, right? I didn't just plan it and go, well, if it grows, it grows. If it dies, it dies. And I'm married, you know. It takes effort, right? It takes a little bit of persistence, you know. In the I say the hypnosis community, there's the popular script of the high road and the low road, right? Where the low road is the road we're currently on, right? We don't have to think, we don't have to try to do anything. It's just the road we're on. It's easy, right? But most of us, that road isn't giving us the life we want, you know. It can be full of pain. It can be full of misery. It could just be a road of just right? It doesn't have to necessarily be bad. It's just an F road. Like, yeah, it's livable, right? But maybe it's not the life we want, right? But when we look to the road to the right, we notice that it goes uphill, right? There's going to be some sweating involved. We realize there's going to be some effort. But that little bit of effort that we put in the beginning reaps a huge reward, right? We have to remember that, right? We have to remember that the effort we're putting in isn't for today or tomorrow. It's for the next 10 years. It's for the next 20 years, next 1 year, right? And both paths have different thoughts. And you can't keep the same thoughts to be on a new path. You know, and that's where when we think about the thoughts we currently have, they give us our current lifestyle. If you're not happy with the lifestyle, it doesn't mean every thought needs to change, but the ones that aren't serving you in a better way need to change.
So, what are some things like some suggestions for people to work on it? Because it's easy to understand that as a concept, but it tends to be very difficult for many to implement it.
Yep. So this is one that I say the hardest and easiest answer we can give is to be kind to yourself, right? Don't expect instant results, right? It's not like, you don't go, oh man, I want to lose weight, go to the gym one day, right? Even if you went for 10 hours that day, you're not going to leave going, I'm the buffest, strongest guy in the world. If anything, you're going to leave that day going, this was the worst decision I ever made, right? I'm sore, I'm tired, I'm just dead to the world in this moment, right? I'm just exhausted, right? But if you go 20 minutes every day, I guarantee you'll get results. I guarantee you'll start getting in shape and you'll lose the weight and you'll gain muscle, right? Because it's not about doing it all at once. It's about being consistent and being kind to yourself, going, I wanted it today and I understand it's not, right? And being loving and forgiving, because those are loving and forgiving thoughts are positive thoughts that will bring positivity into your life, right?
So, for example, like one method that I used, which is similar to this, which is when I was having a bad thought or a bad sequence of thoughts, I would spend time to say, like, if say there's one sequence of bad thoughts, I would just do something and just say something in a positive way that was loving. And, sometimes it was just as simple as, like, I am okay, I am good, I am loved, and I am loving. It was sometimes even like, I am good, I am good, I am good, I am okay, you know. Or sometimes if I would say something in my head, like, well, he never loved me, during a heartbreak, then I would say three things that were opposite. And I really started to make a commitment to that, so that the ruts started to become, just kind of changing the ruts by doing it three times for the one time. So, for example, well, he never loved me. It went from, I'm deserving of a good man and I can find that.
Yeah.
I have this opportunity and time to work on myself to be an even better partner with more discernment. I am a loving and deserving woman who can make better choices. And so that sounds similar to what you're saying. And this is, for people who are listening, like, would be a tip. So when you notice your mind saying something awful, just planting the seed to start to pay attention to it and knowing that your thoughts actually can be manipulated, they can be influenced or controlled, right? So, excuse me, go ahead.
Yeah. This is one where the way because it can be manipulated, it can be controlled, because thoughts are only energy, and we can always change the energy. And it's one where you do have to challenge the old thoughts, right? No, okay. It's one where you have to. I love money for this example, right? This is one where I definitely fell into growing up, learning that money is the root of all evil, right? That is a very strong belief to have about money, and then go, well, why don't I have money? It's like, well, why would you if you think it's evil? Would you want evil things in your life? And you obviously go, no, I don't want evil things in my life. So it's like, of course, that energy is saying, don't have money, right? But if you can change that, even the idea that money is just energy that's going to give you value on the work you do, then you understand the more value you give, the more money you get. The more money you get, the more value you give. That is a powerful concept, right? Or you can say, you know what? Money is not evil, but there's certain people who have money are evil, right? So it's not the money that's the problem, it's the people, right? It could be, you know what? I bet, yes, money is evil. However, I'm going to use it for good, right? I'm going to be the first person to use money for only for good. That'll begin to shape your mind, the energy around that thought to adjust, right? And again, you're not going to wake up one day going, yeah, yesterday I thought money was evil. Today I think money's fantastic. But it's that nurturing of going, even if the fear of losing money, right? This is one where, oh man, Dan Kennedy, I don't know if he still does it. This is probably back in the early 2000s, late 90s. He's a big marketing guy. And every class he would start, he would pull out his wallet, pull out a $500 bill and light it in fire in front of everyone. And he would look at just the horrified faces of the people in that room. And he would be like, that's a difference between you and I. You just think I lost $500. He goes, I didn't lose $500 because I know I'm going to get 500 more later. So I didn't lose anything. I'm still going to gain. Where everyone's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he did that, right? They're going, oh, I'm afraid to lose $500, right? And if you're afraid to lose, you will never put the skin in the game to win because you've already lost. Because losing is a mindset, right? It's a thought, right? It's one where when you think of winners, are they winners because they win, or do they win because they already believe they're winners? One kind of just goes in hand with the other, right? Hand in hand with the other, where the thoughts they have bring in that physical reaction in their body, right? So if you go into your mind and go, I am a winner, you will start to win. Maybe not on day 1 or 2 or 10 or 20, but you will win, right? The truth is you are probably already winning, right? In so many ways that we just take it for granted. And your mind will start to pick up on those times to be the initial wins we get, right? For me in the beginning, when I was really going, I'm a winner. You know what? The first big win was realizing I wake up every day and I can do whatever I want. Even when I had the 9-to-5 job, I could wake up and be like, you know what? I'm going to call out today. Like that was a choice. That's a win, right? It wasn't like, oh my goodness, like if I call out, I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and this is going to be ruined. It was like, no, I got paid time off. Like I could do that if I wanted to. Then it was like, I got a good car and I got food on my table. These are all wins that I had all along that I took for granted.
Yeah, it's that, focusing, where we focus, and, where focus goes, energy flows, right?
Yeah.
Well, we are at past our 20-minute mark. So, any last remarks that you want to kind of like summarize for today?
Yeah, I'd say know that your thoughts are just energy and you can change them. Knowing going to the path on the right path is going to take a little bit of effort and work, but the result is always worth it, right? And two, or I guess three at this point, would be kind and forgiving to yourself when something doesn't go the way you thought it would. Because like any good friend, if you saw someone else, you'd be like, it's okay, you got this. It's just a bad moment. Make sure you treat yourself that way, right? Because we are human. We are imperfect, right? And then that's how we grow.
I love that. And I'd say the few things that I would reiterate is that, you know, over and over again, it's said and shown that love leads the way. Now, we certainly see in life that often love doesn't win. We have this other, the forces are strong on all sides. But at the end of the day, like, we nurture the child and we nurture ourselves. We give ourselves, grace for being human and, a loving focus. And so when these thoughts are running through you, know that it doesn't have to be that way, that you have the capacity to influence and control your thoughts through the lens of like love and compassion. And so as you plant the seed to go, it's possible for me to hear something and then change the direction of that because I have control of my life. Then you'll start to notice, like, say you have 5,000 thoughts a day, even if you have one and you go, oh, there it was. You take a moment and say something loving or three things loving that you believe or that you would like. You can't lie to yourself, but you can speak to yourself and think to yourself and move yourself in a direction of like love and compassion.
Yeah.
So that's my summary on today. So as always, anyone who's listening, please feel free to reach out to me or Pete with any questions. And thank you so much, Pete, for today. And to everyone, have a good week. And we'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.